The gun store was a fortress of steel and swagger, its walls lined with rifles glinting under fluorescent lights, the air thick with the scent of gun oil and bravado. At the counter stood Evelyn Harper, 68 years old, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun, her eyes sharp as the blades she carried in her youth. She wore a faded denim jacket, her hand steady despite the years, clutching a worn leather wallet. The clerk, a young man with a buzz cut and a smirk, leaned forward, his voice dripping with condescension. "Ma'am, you sure you're in the right place? This ain't a knitting shop." The room erupted in snickers from the other customers, and mostly men, their egos as loud as their laughter. Evelyn's lips tightened, but she didn't flinch. She'd faced worse than their mockery. "If you're new here, hit that subscribe button to join our community of story lovers, so we're diving into a tale of grit and triumph you won't want to miss." Evelyn's gaze didn't waver as she slid a crumpled photo across the counter. It was old, yellowed at the edges, showing a younger Evelyn in desert camo, an M16 slung across her shoulder, standing beside a Humvee in a war zone. The clerk's smirk faltered, but only for a second. "Nice costume, Grandma," he said, tossing the photo back. The laughter grew louder, a chorus of ignorance that echoed through the store. Evelyn's fingers twitched, not from fear, but from a fire kindling deep inside her. She wasn't here to play games. She was here for a purpose, a promise she'd made decades ago, one she'd carried through years of silence and scars. The story began 45 years earlier, in a dusty corner of a military base in Kuwait. Evelyn, then 23, was a sharpshooter, one of the first women in her unit to earn the respect of men who thought she didn't belong. She'd outshot them all, her aim steady, her heart fiercer than the desert sun. But there was one moment that changed her, a moment she never spoke of, not even to her late husband. During a patrol, her squad was ambushed. She'd taken down 3 hostiles in seconds, saving her team, but not before a bullet grazed her side. As she lay in the sand, blood seeping through her uniform, her best friend, Private Daniel Carter, made her promise, "If I don't make it, Evie, live fearless." For both of us. Daniel didn't survive the next hour. That promise became her anchor, her reason to keep going, even when the world tried to break her. Back in the gun store, the clerk was still chuckling, oblivious to the storm brewing in Evelyn's silence. She pointed to a sleek, black AR-15 on the wall. "That one," she said, her voice calm but unyielding. "I want to test it." The clerk raised an eyebrow, exchanging glances with a burly customer nearby. "Lady, that's a serious piece. You sure you can even lift it?" The room laughed again, but Evelyn's eyes burned with something dangerous, something the man couldn't see. She wasn't just a woman scorned, she was a warrior reclaiming her past. The clerk handed her the rifle, half expecting her to fumble. Instead, Evelyn checked the chamber with a precision that silenced the room. Her movements were fluid, practiced, like a dancer stepping into a routine she'd never forgotten. She stepped to the indoor range, the other customers trailing behind, their laughter replaced by curiosity. The target was set at 50 yards, a challenge for most. Evelyn raised the rifle, her stance steady, her breathing controlled. The first shot rang out, a crack that echoed like thunder. Bullseye. The second shot, another perfect hit. By the third, the room was dead silent, the man staring, their jaws slack. The clerk's smirk was gone, replaced by a flicker of unease. But the real shock was yet to come. As Evelyn lowered the rifle, the store's door burst open, and a man in a tailored suit stormed in, his face a mix of urgency and reverence. It was Michael Thornton, the CEO of the company that owned the chain of gun stores, a man whose name was synonymous with power in the firearms industry. The clerk froze, his eyes wide. Thornton's gaze swept the room, landing on Evelyn. "Ma'am," he said, his voice carrying the weight of respect, "I was told you'd be here." The room gasped. The men who'd mocked her shifted uncomfortably, their bravado crumbling. Thornton stepped forward, extending a hand. "Evelyn Harper, it's an honor." The story behind Thornton's arrival was one Evelyn had never expected to resurface. Months earlier, she'd written a letter to the company, not out of anger, but out of duty. She'd noticed a flaw in one of their rifle designs, a subtle issue with the trigger mechanism that could jam under extreme conditions. She'd seen it happen once, decades ago, in the chaos of combat, and it had cost lives. Her letter was detailed, precise, and signed only with her initials. She hadn't expected a response, let alone a personal visit from the CEO. But Thornton had done his homework. He traced her initials to military records, uncovering her service history, her awards, her sacrifices. He'd flown across the country to meet her, to thank her, and to offer her something no one in that store could have predicted. "Miss Harper," Thornton continued, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "your insight may have saved lives. We're recalling the model you flagged, and I'd like you to consult with our design team." The clerk's face turned ashen. The customers who'd laughed now looked at the floor, their egos deflated. Evelyn, however, remained composed, her eyes locked on Thornton's. "I didn't do it for recognition," she said softly. "I did it for them." She didn't need to explain who they were. The weight of her words hung in the air, a reminder of the promise she'd kept for decades. The tension in the room was palpable, but Evelyn wasn't done. She turned to the clerk, her voice steady but sharp. "Next time, don't judge what you don't understand." The clerk mumbled an apology, his bravado reduced to a whisper. Thornton handed Evelyn his card, insisting she visit the company's headquarters. As she walked out, rifle in hand as she bought it, of course the customers parted like the Red Sea, their silence a tribute to the woman they'd underestimated. Outside, Evelyn stood in the parking lot, the weight of the rifle familiar, grounding. She wasn't just carrying a weapon, she was carrying Daniel's promise, her own strength, and the respect she'd earned in a world that tried to dismiss her. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the lot, and for the first time in years, Evelyn felt seen, and not as an old woman, but as the warrior she'd always been. As the screen fades to black, let's talk, friends. From which part of the country are you watching this video? Drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear where Evelyn's story is reaching you.